Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Behind the Meter, the Michigan Public Service Commission's podcast on issues of importance related to energy and telecommunications. I'm Mike Byrne, I'm your host, and I'm joined here today by Commissioner Alessandra Carrion. Hello.
Hello again.
We've got a couple first-time guests today as well. We're going to be talking about issues related to propane. And so our first guest that I'd like to introduce is Andy Vanderboegh. He's the chairman of the Michigan Propane Commission. Andy, it's great to see you. Maybe you can talk a little bit about yourself and about the commission.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. My name's Andrew Vanderboegh. I'm a former MPGA president, the current MPC, which is the Michigan Propane Commission chair. The Michigan Propane Commission provides propane rebates as well as promotes the education of propane through and safe handling of propane throughout the state.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
We also have with us Alex Morese. He's the manager of the Michigan Public Service Commission's Energy Security Section. Alex, could you tell us a little bit about your background and the work that the Energy Security team does?
Sure, yeah, thanks for having me. My name is Alex Morese. I'm the manager of the Energy Security Section. I came to the commission with a background in economics. Our section wears many hats here at the commission. Primarily, our responsibility is to ensure that Michigan has adequate energy supplies. That would include natural gas, electricity, driving fuels like gasoline and diesel fuel, and heating fuels like propane and heating oil. We also oversee the cyber and physical security programs here at the Public Service Commission, and we've recently launched a mapping program here. There's a new GIS portal on the MPSC website.
Great. Thank you both for being here today. So as I said, we're going to talk a little bit about propane today. If you've been following our podcast in previous episodes, you've seen that we've talked about the work that the commission does in terms of regulating electric and natural gas utilities. We also have some oversight of telecommunications companies. But the idea of propane really hasn't come up before today. So Commissioner Carrion, maybe I'd ask you to give us a little bit of insight on how the commission, what the commission's work is as it relates to propane. I expect it's sort of different than some of the more traditional stuff that the commission does.
Sure, thanks. So because the commission only regulates the fares, fees, service quality rules of electricity and natural gas, and then to a limited extent for telecommunications, as you said, our work and our involvement with propane looks fundamentally different. And that's primarily through our role in monitoring irregularities with fuel supply. Alex explained very well what our energy security section is responsible for. And so as that primary point and really contact, that central clearinghouse for the state of Michigan when it comes to monitoring and preparedness around energy emergencies, it's really critical that we make sure that all Michiganders have access to the energy supply that they need. And truly that falls within the scope of our mission, which is to serve the public in ensuring safe, reliable, and accessible energy and telecommunication services at reasonable rates. So I think that every aspect of the discussion today will touch on that, from ensuring that, as I said, that Michiganders have access to their energy fuel, and we'll talk about propane as that one very important delivered fuel within our state in a way that is safe, that is accessible wherever they may live within the state, and that ultimately, when we talk about locking in the prices for propane, that gets to the reasonable rate side. So again, we may not be the regulator behind it, but we are paying close attention to prices, to availability. There are a number of two primary appraisals that we issue throughout the year that Alex's team is responsible for, that look over seasonal fuel supply, and it provides some forecasting thanks to a lot of really great data collection and analysis that goes behind that. But ultimately, even in cases where there may be, again, an emergency, Alex's team is prepared to prepare appraisals that are specific to that moment, or at least provide some insight because of their industry contacts, because of their role really in ensuring safe and accessible energy supply, that they can make sure that any resources Michiganders, critical care facilities, industry may need, that they're not without. So I think this is a really important conversation because we can't deny the role of propane within our energy system. And ultimately, as we get through the conversation, it'll be really interesting to see how it parallels, even what we talk about in terms of energy efficiency for electricity or natural gas. Like there's a lot there that we can dive into. So that's. And if I've missed anything, Alex is the expert and pro here.
No, you handled it very well.
Okay.
I think one of the differences is the market. The market for these petroleum fuels are not regulated. They're highly regulated industries. They're regulated for safety. They're regulated for tank leakage, for environmental factors, for emissions, all these different things. But because they're competitive commodities, the marketplace isn't regulated like it is for electricity and natural gas. And so that's where the commission steps in, as Commissioner Carrion mentioned, to get a hold of, to monitor those energy supplies, the infrastructure that supports these industries, to make sure that if there's a refinery breakdown in Wisconsin or in the Chicago area, or a pipeline breakdown, that we're aware that may impact the supply that will be delivered to the state of Michigan and then thus the citizens here. So we closely monitor these industries and looking for any imbalance, whether it be in price or supply or inventories throughout the course of the year, and then alert the proper leadership authorities here.
So we're paying pretty close attention to this, and there must be a reason for that. I expect that there's maybe a lot of customers in Michigan or there's a lot of usage of propane in the state. So I don't know, Andy or Alex, if you could kind of talk us through sort of what Michigan's propane usage looks like.
Well, Michigan, the largest user of propane throughout the entire United States. Bigger than California, bigger than New York, bigger than Texas, which is great because we have a lot of rural areas that would like to have gas. And so what do they turn to? They turn to propane. That propane can be used for not only for their home, used for the commercial, but also can be used for vehicles. So we do have a lot of usage in the state.
Yeah, I would echo that. We're at about 8.6% of residential customers use propane as their primary home heating fuel. The largest is obviously natural gas, but for those areas of the state that don't have a natural gas distribution system near them, propane seems to be the favored heating source. And so, primarily you see a lot of usage in the upper lower peninsula, a lot of usage in the UP, but it's really spread out across the state. With some states, I think there are with 3 counties that exceed 50% of homes being heated by propane, and probably close to half of the counties in the state of Michigan with over 20% of the homes heated by propane.
That's a pretty significant source of heat in the state for Michigan residents. Okay, so I think one thing, if the commission's not involved in sort of setting the prices, how are prices for propane determined?
Well, we've all seen the movie Trading Places. So we all have seen, unless you're 40, hopefully you're 40 and over, you've seen the movie Trading Places. So you know that propane is a commodity that's traded openly on the market. And then there's many factors that go into the propane prices. Weather-related, tariffs can be a part of that. Economic, there's a lot of things that go into determining the price and how it fluctuates on the market. Certainly seasonal flexibility is one of those things as well. As we saw back in probably a few years ago when we had the vortex, farmers were using a lot of propane to dry their crops that were coming out wet in the fields. Then we had a cold winter. Then we had a shortage of propane. But that's how, and so the propane market suddenly spiked at that point. But we have, certain variables can go into what causes the propane price to fluctuate throughout the year.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I'm glad you brought that up. The 2013-2014 winter heating season was certainly like a perfect storm of events. We had a pipeline reversal down south, the Cochin Pipeline. As you mentioned, we had a very wet harvest season west of us in the Midwest, so they used a lot of propane to dry those crops. And then we had a polar vortex. So you had this combination of elements that and an increase in exports at the time too, that sent the price, quite high and actually reduced the availability of propane for a little bit there. We were able to get through that pretty effectively, I think, with the help of the propane industry here and some help from state, certain measures that we can pass to alleviate certain driving restrictions for truck drivers and allow them to travel greater distances to pick up fuel. I would add, though, that one of the things, and customers might notice, that as the price of crude oil increases, decreases, as the price of natural gas increases and decreases, propane greatly tied to the price of natural gas over the last, say, dozen years, but propane tracks with those prices. It's not perfect, but it trends with those because propane is a byproduct for the refining process, essentially, of both of those products. So, as those prices shift, then we get increases in the price of propane as well.
So it sounds like there's a lot of factors that go into determining what the price of propane is. There's some macroeconomic pieces associated with that, but there may be a little bit of variability or volatility that's associated with prices as well. So maybe a follow-up question would be, what can customers do to sort of minimize their exposure to that volatility?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Especially if you look at in the summertime, most propane marketers offer programs such as a budget program, such as a price cap program, such as a pre-buy program. Differences in all of those: a budget program, as we all know, helps customers determine what we look at what they use, come up with a monthly figure for those customers, and then that's what they pay per month. Price cap program is where someone will pay usually a nominal fee to lock in or to cap the price, so if the market does spike, their price won't go any higher than that amount. And then a pre-buy program, which a lot of our customers take advantage of, is where they buy what they annually use, and then at a certain lower price, and then that gets delivered to them throughout the heating season. All are great programs, all are huge energy savers. If you look at this year, if you go to the MPSC's website and look at the average cost of propane throughout the state through that shop reports that goes from basically October to March, you can see that customers who did maybe a pre-buy saved up to maybe 30 to 40 cents per gallon, which is in this year's winter a significant savings.
Yeah, I would add, this is a real important hedge against that volatility, these programs. Many customers in that 2013-14 season were stuck paying spot market prices, essentially, so the price on the market today. And so if you go through a shortage, if you go through an energy disruption, then you're subject to that volatility and those higher prices. And if you had worked or taken advantage of one of those programs, you would be essentially locked in with the price. So, there's the potential. I think sometimes people in their head go, I'm going to lock in a price at $2 a gallon. What if it goes down to $1.95? It might go down to $1.95, but you know what you're protecting yourself from? It going to $3.25. And I think that assurance should be enough to say, I'll risk the nickel per gallon if it does in fact go down. But as you mentioned, more likely than not, the price tends to inch up by pennies over the course of the season because it gets colder and people demand more. So you're really well encouraged, strongly encouraged to take advantage of one of these programs, typically at a very nominal fee, especially the price cap. Sometimes consumers don't have the money to pre-buy, and that's understandable. A 500-gallon tank, that's a lot of money to shell out. But what I'll also say is I think a really important program that most propane providers offer is to sign up as, and maybe you can elaborate this on this, but as a keep full, like a keep full program. So if you sign up with your provider, they will monitor the level of propane in your tank. They will come out and fill it without you calling and asking. They will always keep you full. You're then sort of, I don't want to say you're a priority customer, but you're more of an established customer. If you're on a will call basis where you're just calling when the tank is empty, if you get to those emergency times, which don't happen often, but if you do get to an emergency time, you're more likely to get service quicker if you're a keep full customer than you are if you're a will call customer,
Yes.
because they've kind of accounted for your usage over the year. They work that into their figures, into their projections, into their buying of propane, where these companies, they buy, thousands upon thousands of gallons over the summer, and some of these programs help them, get some assurance about what propane they're going to need over the course of the winter.
And that's a great point. So when someone signs up for an autofill program, we have in our system, we have ability to see via their usage when their next scheduled delivery date will be, as we also have invested in a lot of money in putting electronic monitors on these tanks so we can see in real time what their tank is on. One of the best abilities for the autofill, as you just pointed out, is that they're going to be serviced when we see their tank is about 30%. We're going to be out there going to schedule that tank for a fill. We'll call customers who might delay, might not look at their tank, better go take a look at it, and they're at 5%. If we have an ice storm, if we have some weather-related, some sort of emergency that's going on, we might not be able to get there right away, and there's where being someone that's on autofill really is the person that's taking advantage of their propane company servicing them in a timely fashion.
And if I can add one little tidbit too, as a consumer tip, we saw this in Ohio, I think this year, but we've seen it in Michigan in the past. If you have a long driveway that has a foot and a half of snow, the truck has to get into your driveway to be able to fill your tank. If you don't plow your driveway, then it takes the truck driver longer and the propane company longer to access your driveway, to fill your tank, to drag the hose, to get to the tank, and then it just delays all of these fills across the state and across customers, and it makes it really difficult for them to do their job. So, be thoughtful during the winter when you have a lot of snow and try and clear your driveway. So
yes, these just going back on that thing with the trucks, a lot of customers who don't plow their driveway say, "Oh, I got up my driveway with my Explorer." Well, these trucks are much heavier and will slide very easy. So we also always want to make sure that the customer is taking care of a safe pathway, not only to the tank, but in their driveway as well.
Yeah, you can ensure that you're getting your propane tank filled, but not ending up with a propane truck.
Laying on the ground.
Yes,
going to hook the hose right up.
A little more than you signed up for. Okay, so it sounds like this is probably a fairly competitive market too, and I assume that there are a number of different providers that are out there. If you any advice in terms of if you wanted to change suppliers or wanted to shop around a little bit, and whether that could be beneficial for customers?
Well, I think number one, inform yourself about what your own company is offering you. Take advantage of their programs. But once again, I'd utilize that MPSC shop page, because to see that average price of propane for heating is huge. I mean, you can see the difference in what a program will save you by looking at that from maybe a year prior, and you can also have some assurance that you're getting you're within a good range of propane pricing with your company.
Yeah, I think I would look out for excessive fees. Some companies have a lot of fees. Better than believable first fill kind of per gallon price that then is like any too good to be true kind of offer in any area of life is going to increase because if someone can offer you a 50-cent per gallon discount on propane, you have to understand that they can't do that forever. So just be mindful, be thoughtful, be kind of logical about it, how you would approach any other contract. But fees and kind of too good to be true pricing. And Andy has mentioned a couple times the SHOP program. So should I take a second to explain that?
Please do.
So as part of, across the country, there are give or take 37, maybe 40 states that participate in it's called the State Heating Oil and Propane Program. So it spells out SHOP. And this is a mechanism for the Energy Information Administration, which is part of the Department of Energy, to gauge where prices are around the country for these heating fuels, for heating oil and for propane. So We are given a list, I think every 3 years is updated, of about 40 propane suppliers in Michigan. They're geographically distributed. They're distributed by kind of size and volume. And we call them every week throughout the winter from October to March, I think it is. And we ask for their propane and heating oil prices. We record that. We supply that to the Department of Energy. That's how they get an idea of where prices are moving around the country. But on the benefit to us, and I think the benefit to the propane industry, is that it allows MPSC staff to develop a relationship with some of these propane suppliers. And we get to know them over the years. The gentleman who does that is Ethan Kramer here at the commission. And so Ethan calls up and they know Ethan's voice and they know what he's going to ask. But then it gives us the opportunity to inquire about the industry, to inquire about supplies, to inquire about, any issues they might be facing, how their drivers are faring, how the weather is looking, how lines at terminals are where they go to fill up their tanks. And it's kind of a canary in the coal mine. It's kind of an early warning system for us. So we'll hear from a few people that, I'm having an issue, with X, Y, and Z. And then we can reach out to the Michigan Propane Gas Association and we can inquire, hey, we're hearing this. Or we reach out to our cohorts in other states and say, hey, we're kind of seeing this on the ground. Are you guys seeing the same thing? And then, we gather that information. So it's a great program. It doesn't take a ton of effort. We appreciate the cooperation of everybody in the propane industry. But I think it then allows us, as Andy mentioned, sorry to circle back, to synthesize all those prices. They're not displayed by company, but we average them all together based on their size. And that's posted on our website, and you can go back years and years so you can see the trend lines for heating oil and propane, and it is really useful.
Yes, I totally agree.
I just want to emphasize Alex's point here around, again, our role and distinction from regulating fares and fees, which is in providing that data transparency. And Alex also mentioned the mapping function within his team. There are a lot of ways that we provide that data, if it's in reports, if it's the shop price graph on our website. But again, I just wanted to pause because I think it's through this data, this access to information, that then customers can make these informed decisions. Without it, there's really, you're responsible for one individual wouldn't be able to do the work of Ethan calling around to see if their prices are reasonable or not. So this is just my own plug for the role and the responsibility we assume in making sure that there's accurate, up-to-date information through the MPSC website, through our experts that enables customers to make these decisions on their behalf with regard to energy.
Yes,
so,
absolutely.
And really great job to the energy security team for taking point on that and thinking about ways to make that data accessible in different formats.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe a couple more questions before we start to wrap up. We've talked a lot about pricing and ways to sort of avoid volatility, but one of the things that we talk about at the commission as it relates to electric and natural gas companies is sort of the unit of energy not used is kind of the cheapest one that's out there, right? So are there efficiency programs or weatherization programs that propane customers can take advantage of? Can anybody talk about that a little bit?
So let's go back to the Michigan Propane Gas Commission. By promoting rebates that for Energy Star appliances. So we're moving old appliances for our own current members as for potential new propane customers. There are those rebates out there to help getting more efficient appliances in the home, not only for heating, but for water heating as well. And we've seen a big uptick since the commission was formed for people to go and apply for those rebates as well as get them. It's great to see that we're putting our own money into investing into rebates for our own clients.
And then maybe another question is, we work really hard to make sure that we're always keeping an eye on affordability and that those customers who are most in need, that there is assistance available for them. So are propane customers eligible for energy assistance the same way that an electric or natural gas customer would be? Maybe I'll turn to Commissioner Carey on that question.
Sure, yes. The answer is yes. There is assistance available. Again, I think perhaps the easiest way to find out what's available is to call 211. I think that's what we would recommend. But I certainly, Andy, if there are examples you can give of what a customer who might need assistance can do specifically for their own
Absolutely.
household.
There is a link from the MPGA site to heatingmyhome.org, which then shows all the different breaks it down in counties, all the different ways to get assistance, whether it be through DHS, whether it be through ACAP, whether it be through any programs that are going on in the certain counties. They're all listed. So obviously this year, with the weather being a little bit colder than what people were used to in the past couple of winters, that has become essential. And a lot of people thought that their usage last year was the norm. Then we get to a real Michigan winter and go, well, that's really, we have to use a little bit more. Some of those low-income customers really did need the help, and they utilize these programs. And it's great to have the assistance of the MPSC as well as our own site to help with the need for those customers.
And I would add, don't wait until it's too late. And with propane, because it's deliverable fuel, it's a little bit different than electricity or natural gas. And so don't wait till your tank is 5% full or 10% full. I believe the section here that works on that energy assistance, those energy assistance grants and funding, they've helped over the years construct it in such a way that folks can get funding. I hope I'm correct about this, but I believe to be true. Before the heating season, this is when propane is the cheapest. So it's cheapest in the summer. It's not going to be as cheap in the throes of winter. So if you can get maybe that first fill, if you're going to need assistance, then you fill up your tank early in the season, have enough fuel maybe to carry you through the season or at least halfway through the season, and then address a need if it arises again, or maybe you're in better shape then and you don't need that assistance. But certainly do not wait until your tank is empty, because then it's going to be a lot harder. Sometimes these administrative processes take a little while, so. Yes. You want to tackle that early.
Absolutely.
But to kind of come full circle, if it's within your means, there are one of the best things you can do is tighten up your home, right? And if you can make your home more energy efficient, if you can tighten up some of the air gaps, if you can increase the insulation in your home, and use less energy through the winter, whether it be electricity or wood or natural gas, you're going to save on heating bills, and so those are programs that are available. I think linked from the MPSC website, but also the Michigan Energy Office, and certainly take advantage of those if you can.
Yeah, and I think 211 is another, again, a resource that could help with some of those pieces as well. So we've covered a lot of ground today. I appreciate everybody, the expertise that's here. I want to give each of you an opportunity maybe just to give a concluding thought. So start with Alex and kind of work this direction.
Yeah, I would say, and maybe this is a tiny bit off topic, but the work that the Energy Security Section does, I think, within the state apparatus and within the commission and the people who work here in the state apparatus that responds to emergencies is pretty significant, and it's pretty complicated. And we've just spent the last 2 weeks responding to a declared emergency in multiple counties due to the ice storm. And if you can imagine, the ice storm causes electrical outages. Electrical outages affect hospitals. They affect propane suppliers. They affect gas stations and grocery stores and hotels. And so there's this entire state mechanism at the Michigan State Police, who is our emergency management agency, that stands up the State Emergency Operations Center, that gathers all the people who represent these different industries and helps coordinate a response to this effort. And it's immense, and it's complicated, and at the same time it's absolutely impressive. And so while you might be frustrated if you lose power, you might be frustrated if there's a spike in prices or something, please understand that there are multiple people working behind the scenes to ensure that a particular propane supplier has electricity or is restored a little quicker, that a hospital is restored, that we can get gasoline and diesel fuel to the UP because the bridge is closed for 3 days, and the closest terminals are without power, so they're not able to supply. And so there's this very complicated mechanism that responds to these storms. Departments all over the state, the DNR, DHHS, MDOT, state police, our agency, and we do our best. And part of that starts with the monitoring, as Commissioner Carrion mentioned, and carries through with our preparation and training and exercises and the establishment of an energy security plan that we have for the state of Michigan and here at the Commission, as well as a petroleum shortage response plan that gives us kind of a playbook for when we face these obstacles, that we can respond a little bit quicker and have things already written up and thought through. So I would just leave with that, because I come off working along with other staff members over the last 2 weeks on this energy emergency, and it's some of these events that, while they're kind of devastating for people that go through them, I'm completely inspired by the response effort when I watch people around the state and I watch private industry and how they respond, come together to share resources and share personnel to just get Michiganders back to a safe spot. They put competition and grievances and money making aside for a couple weeks and really just help each other.
Yep.
And it's fantastic.
Coming for the best of our own, for the members of our state and the people of our state, which is great.
Absolutely it is. Andy, do you have any
Yeah,
thoughts?
I just want to say, as we talked about again, when you have a propane, if you get a propane program offered by your local company, your propane company, do take a look at that and see if one of those options will fit in your budget. A budget program, a price cap program, or a pre-buy. Obviously, we've all discussed about how the pre-buy is putting down all their money up front to get your price, but there are other programs that don't have to have that fee with it and will protect you in case we do have spikes in the commodity market of propane. Take advantage of those. Look them over. Don't just toss it away. And then look at to see that price compared to what is from the short program the following year, to see if you would have taken advantage, if you took advantage of that price, what you would have saved. And I think your answer is right there.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Carrion.
Two quick thoughts. First, I encourage anyone listening to check out our summer and winter appraisals if you're interested in this topic, just to see exactly how we communicate the findings of the energy supply dynamics that we monitor. And then the second piece is maybe a bit zoomed out and bigger picture. As we talk about our changing energy mix across the state, especially with our energy law reforms from 2023, I just want to emphasize how important it is to take into account every type of fuel, energy fuel used within the state. And when we, for instance, one of the requirements of the law was for the MPSC to conduct every 4 years an economy-wide study on electrification, demand response, and energy waste reduction or energy efficiency. When we do these studies, we in turn have to take into account delivered fuel use. So I just want to offer that for those paying attention to how the energy landscape is changing, it's really important to stay apprised of, be aware of the actual use of different fuels for different applications across the state, to think about over time how dynamics change, and ultimately what affordability and price impacts may look like as those changes occur over time.
Outstanding. So again, appreciate everybody's participation today. Alex, you and your team, the work that you do on energy security is much appreciated. Andy, it was great to have you here as a guest. We appreciate you and the industry that you represent, and Commissioner Carrion, your leadership on all of these issues. We will share some links to some of the information that was talked about today in terms of the shop reports and other information on the MPSC website. Appreciated the opportunities to sort of have commissions collide today, the Public Service Commission and the Propane Commission getting together, and look forward to talking with everybody again on issues related to energy and telecommunications when we see you next time behind the meter. Thanks.